What is up, everybody? We are live. Thank you very much for joining us this fine Saturday evening. We got a fun one for you tonight. We got a special guest with us, but before we get into that, I also want to introduce my co-host Origami, who's here.
Hello, good
Always,
evening, everybody.
and our special guest for this evening will be none other than the man who's been breaking news on X as well as some news here on YouTube in regards to the Reckless Ben case, and that is our buddy here, BBQ Counselor. Thank you for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
If you haven't seen him, go watch him.
Yeah, fantastic channel. If you guys want to check out his channel, a link will be in the description of the stream, but we'll also be linking it in the chat. But if you guys have been watching the streams, you know that a lot of the videos we've been going over have been ones that BBQ has done, because he's been, like I said, breaking some news and kind of giving us all the info from the legal aspect,
The updates. Yeah.
Yep. So, and it's been fantastic. Couldn't recommend his channel more for those of you that haven't seen it yet. So be sure to check him out. But before we get into any of the legal stuff, why don't you tell the chat here a little bit of your background? Because you're new to content creation. So
yeah, I am new. My channel is effectively I think 2 weeks old at this point.
Wow.
I have been toying with the idea of starting to make content for a while, and I was fired up enough about what was going on with the Lego situation that it got me over my nerves and my fears, and so I just decided to jump in. In terms of me, I am a practicing lawyer. I specialize in civil litigation, and I kind of subspecialize in intellectual property litigation. So my focus is generally federal courts, and now that the Reckless Ben case is in federal court, it is a turf that I'm quite familiar with. But yeah, I've been practicing for a decade and a half. I am from Texas. I consider myself a Texan, but I live in California and I practice law in California.
nice. And he loves his Texas BBQ.
I do. I do. Yes. I don't just eat barbecue. One of my big hobbies is cooking barbecue. So for example, someone on my chat or in my comments section a few days ago tried to trick me by asking me what kind of binder I put on my brisket. And that's a trick question, because you don't put binder on brisket. You just put salt and pepper. That's all you need.
That's it. Look at that. He's going to teach you the law and how to make barbecue the right way.
I can do both. I don't consider myself an expert barbecue guy, but I do enjoy it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Speaking about what you were saying though, in regards to the whole Ben thing and how it fired you up and kind of really motivated you to start your channel, that's kind of what brought us back, because we had taken also a pretty good hiatus. Yeah, for a while, and because the thing was, with what was going on, YouTube really wasn't. When you've been around, doing like the kind of commentary stuff that we're used to doing, it gets saturated with a lot of nonsense, a lot of stuff, that people like to talk about, that it's just really just drama, nothing else. Yeah. Yes, you go ahead.
All right. So basically, it gets sullied with certain types of allegations that are repeated over and over and over again. And it's horrible to keep taking a look at those things. It's horrible to keep investigating those things. If you find something fishy or ask questions, everyone's going to push back on you. So it's a lot of, I guess, stress, and it's just very tiring,
Yeah.
So a lot of burnout.
It became pretty monotonous after a while, because just kind of the same thing over and over again. So but when we saw these videos, I remember I was watching them and I was just like, it did the same to me. It kind of fired me up, and I was like, man, this is terrible, man. This situation, this guy is just trying to get either his stuff back or at least some kind of compensation for what he lost. And here's this guy who's trying to help him, who's doing a good faith effort to try to help him to at least get some kind of reprieve, whether that be monetarily or just, again, getting his inventory back. And this company that really all they needed to do from the beginning was just give him his stuff back, and none of this probably would have happened. Just refused to do it at every single point. They had such an easy way to handle this, and they really did choose the hard way, which is insane. And
it's true. A lot of lawsuits, I wouldn't say a lot of lawsuits have similar facts to these because these are pretty wild, but a lot of lawsuits begin with things that shouldn't have happened. And I don't mean like someone necessarily like out intentionally doing a bad thing, but this should have been something that could have been solved by an accountant, right? Like,
yep.
He delivered these boxes. This amount was sold. He was not paid for those sales. Like, this should be an accountant, not a bunch of lawyers. And unfortunately, you see that a lot in litigation where something that should not have gotten this far does. And that's, unfortunately, that's where lawyers step in. And this is going to be a big one.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah. And what's crazy about, again, when you go back to it, I used to work with people that were a part of public relations and media. And so I know a little bit about it. I'm not an expert or anything like that, but I'm very familiar with how public relations and media representatives work in regards to, public relations and media. And I looked at this, and from the very beginning, from a PR standpoint, I'm like, this is crazy. They are doing everything wrong from a PR standpoint. I'm like, they're doing everything you could possibly do that's absolutely wrong in regards to like their the media appearances that Eamon McNeff made, and just the way they just are cavalier about the whole thing. I'm like, just everything that they could do wrong, they did wrong. The only guy like I've given credit to in regards to this whole situation has been Brandon, because he's the only one that's been smart enough to keep his mouth shut and kind of stay out of any of the limelight. So,
well, and you say from the PR perspective, but the same holds true from the legal perspective. There's a reason why lawyers advise their clients to shut up, right? I mean, think about all the content we've made on YouTube. Well, look, if I was cross-examining Eamon McNeff at the trial, I would have teed up every single one of the statements that he's made, and every single time he said X, and then the next day said something different than X. I mean, the U-Haul from CoffeeZilla's video, there was no U-Haul. Oh, there was a U-Haul, but I've got this whole story about it. And at the end of the day, Eamon wasn't even there that night. How does he know what really happened, what didn't? So the problem is that everyone's made a lot of statements that will not be helpful for them. I mean, there's a reason why the Supreme Court requires police to tell you, everything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. That goes for civil litigation too. So it's crazy. Everyone should have been far more quiet about this than they have been.
Yeah, and that was the other wild thing too, because we watched, I remember when we went over the CoffeeZilla video, Aura had watched it and I hadn't. So I was like reacting to it like in real time. Like it was like I had not seen it beforehand.
It was a little funny because I think we slightly consulted about it, and I think other people were telling you need to watch it, and I was like, John, you need to watch it. Like we need to watch it.
Yeah, he was telling me, and then like we're watching it, I'm just like I'm hearing everything that these guys are saying and doing, and it was so crazy to me to see that none of them are on the same page. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing too. They came across in the video, because you see Matt McNeff, who's Eamon's brother, and the number 2 guy in the company, and he has no idea what's going on. He's like completely oblivious, and you got him saying one thing, and then Eamon saying something completely different, because Matt was the one that was like, hey, there was no U-Haul. He rented a car. There was never a U-Haul. And then here comes Eamon. Well, actually, there was a U-Haul, but I could explain. There's a U-Haul because this happened. And then he gives this long-winded explanation that sounds absolutely ridiculous. And it's just like, how do you expect anybody to believe you guys?
I couldn't even follow what he was saying there. It didn't make any sense to me. I mean, and another example was, well, we didn't have any of the sets A, B, or C. And so then he starts reading off these set numbers. He's like, oh, and they're from the photos of the store the night the night they're there. And I'm like, well, did you look in the safe? Oh, that's the problem with doing this, right? A lot of times in a litigation, there's the fog of war. Everyone starts off thinking they're right, but their thoughts and their theories of the case are going to get pressure tested through the litigation process. And that's why you can't just be so definitive about this stuff, because it turns out probably nobody in terms of their accounting was 100% right, according to the CoffeeZilla video. That was my big takeaway. It's like everyone's maybe a little bit right and a little bit wrong, which that's why this should have just gone to a settlement with an accountant. Just get the accountants in there and do an audit of what's actually there. That's how it should have resolved. But for reasons unbeknownst to me, it didn't.
Yeah, it was so crazy to watch. Like I said,
would it be safe to say that they weren't really looking for a resolution, or that's presumptuous?
Who knows, right? I mean,
right?
I can't get into anyone's heads. Who knows? Exactly. I mean, if you go back and look at some of my videos, and if you look at some of the posts I've made on X, I mean, I think I've laid out how litigious the McNeffs are. I'll just leave it there. They're quite a litigious pair of brothers.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a history of that. What I think is interesting too, though, is and we've talked about this before as well. I think they very much underestimated how far I think this story would go. I don't think that they really had any idea that this story would blow up the way that it has. And I think part of that too, I think is aside from arrogance, I think it's also the fact that, like you just mentioned,
repeated behavior, John.
They're repeated behavior, but also because they're very litigious. Maybe they thought when it did get some traction online, that they thought, well, we'll be fine because we've dealt with lawsuits and stuff before. We can handle it ourselves. But then when it went beyond just an internet story and became a national story, and then went beyond a national story, and now it's like an international story. It's a completely global story now. Because I mean, we get people here that come into the chat that are like chatting us from the Netherlands, from New Zealand, from Australia, saying, "Oh no, we know about it over here too. It's on the news over here too."
Yeah,
which is crazy. It's now like a global story. And what makes it even more interesting is that it's not just this company now that's in the global spotlight. It's also this little police department in Utah.
I was going to bring them up. Yeah,
with a city population of 37,000, they're in the global spotlight now too because of this story, which is crazy. It's a police department that just a couple of weeks ago nobody probably ever heard of, but now it's like they're the most talked about police department.
Yeah. It's just there's a channel. I was trying to find the name if people haven't watched it. Lackluster.
Yes.
If folks have not seen the Lackluster, so Lackluster does a lot of videos about police. And in situations where it's alleged they've violated people's First or Fifth Amendment rights, and he's done a series on American Fork. There appears to be a significant history there.
We've been watching his videos too. Like we actually we've
been covering it for like the last week, I think.
Yep. For the last week, we've been going over them. We actually went over the last one that he put out just last night, which we thought was probably the worst one of them all.
I'll have to get caught up. I'm a little behind on his videos.
Oh man, so I think the first one he put out was the one about the one lady that basically called the cops on
the Thorpes.
No, that Thorpes was the second one. The first one was actually the one lady that called the cops on the lady that lived the street over from her, that they were getting the mail situation, and they didn't open the door, and then they were just like, we're gonna cite them for obstruction for not opening the door.
The one where he called backup because they hung up on him.
Yes, that one. Have you seen that one, BBQ?
I think I have. Is that the one where they broke in? They rushed into the house as they were trying to close the door.
That's actually the second one. That's the third one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
those are
was
the
pretty
first.
bad too. So it gets like progressively worse. It starts off with like them citing this.
Yes.
They want to cite this lady for I guess assault. They want to cite her for, but then
Yeah.
they go to her house. But her husband does not open the door. He's like, no, I'm not opening the door for you guys. You guys can leave.
This is the kind of the part one where it was like alleged that the lady said something to the complainant was the wife of someone
Who wasn't even
her
at
husband,
the temple.
Yeah, her husband was at a temple, and this neighbor lady supposedly accosted him.
Yes.
And yeah, it's and then they just wouldn't leave. They just were banging on the door for a long time.
It was in the middle of the night too. It was like 10:30 at night, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It was really concerning for me to watch that, but I do wish that the people whose house, and I don't know the right and the wrong of it, right? And that's not what Lackluster's pointing out. It's not Lackluster's job to talk about who did what to whom. It's a matter of what everyone's Fourth Amendment rights are. And here, I just wish the owners of the house had said one word to these cops, which is warrant. Come back with a warrant. That's like that's the magic word that makes the cops go away. Warrant.
Yeah, I think I could be misremembering, but I think that the Thorpes were the ones that did mention a warrant when the police were trying to be like forceful with them too, because the cop like put his foot in the door and stuff like that, because they brought a citation and the husband was like, well, just leave it here, leave it on the doorstep or something, and there's like, well, have your wife come out. It's like, she doesn't need to come out. It's like, just leave the citation and just like leave. And that's the one where they basically they burst into the house, and it was that was crazy. And then there's one after that where they whoop the crap out of a dude, and that one was probably like the worst one that we saw. That's the one we saw last night. That one was the most egregious one that we had seen.
Well,
but
he surrendered. He surrendered, got down on his knees, and then I don't know which one of them like leapt off like his feet and tackled him face first into the ground. And like this dude is like concussed, and they just proceed to beat the shit out of him. And I'm like, what are you doing? I didn't even know I don't even know if they even told him to stop. I think they just grabbed him. I can't even remember.
Well, they do say that they do things differently in America.
Yeah.
They are not joking.
That's crazy.
No, but so the one here, because I brought it up here real quick. So the one we were initially talking about was this one. So this is the one that kind of started everything. And we won't go through the whole thing, but there was a point. I want to say it's right here, early on in the video. So the cop tries calling them. He tries calling them, and the husband, he's like saying like, hey, we're gonna. I think he tells the husband they're gonna cite the wife or whatever, and he's just like, the cop. He just hangs up on him, and then the cop, after he gets hung up on twice, he's like, he basically calls backup, and that's when they go to like this woman's house. It's insane. It's just like, why are they going over there? It's just like, because they got hung up on. It's like, is this for real? Like, I think this is it right here. Let me see if I can.
And she just, from the day we moved in, she just like started.
So the lady talking here is the lady that was accusing the other lady of.
That's the complaint. Yeah. Right.
Initially on this call, she tells the officer that she approached us at Temple. Like we were at Temple and she came up. So she gives the impression that she was there. And then later on in the same call, she says, well, no, I wasn't there. It was just my husband. So already lying from the beginning. And then at some point, this Officer Kitchen, he calls the resident in question and just speaks to the husband, and the husband's like, yeah, you're not gonna talk to her, and just don't call us, and whatever you got to do, just do it, but don't call us back. And then he tries to call him back, and the husband just hangs up on him again, and that's when he decides that he's gonna call backup, and they're gonna go to this person's house. And then they go and they go there at like 10:30 at night, and they're just like knocking on the door. And then what's funny is that one of the people they end up talking to when it's obvious that these people are not going to open the door is Adamson, who, if you remember, Adamson is one of the guys from the Reckless Ben video,
Right.
the one that took the phone from Sheldon, the one that was saying like, oh, hey, maybe we could charge them with this or that, and then he tells Sheldon, oh, you're that's obstruction, because he's like, you're trying to delete what's on your phone, and he's like, I'm just trying to lock my phone. And but he appears so he is mentioned he is mentioned in this video. I believe they get him on a call. He's actually on a call with, I believe, this Officer Kitchen, telling him to cite these people with obstruction after the fact too, when they wouldn't open the door. And then in the video, the last video that we saw last night, Adamson was there when this guy was like assaulted. He's one of the people that assaulted this guy, just beat the mess out of him. So like this guy's been around in a lot of this stuff. And
John, you forgot to mention, it's like they charged him with, what is it, assault on a peace officer or some shit?
Yeah. They charged the guy that they assaulted. They charged him with assault on a peace officer. That was one of the charges.
After they beat him and concussed him, they charged him with assault on a peace officer.
Yep. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, I'm sure it's something you'll get around to. I don't know if we want to go over that again on stream. It was pretty bad. The guy got messed up pretty good.
Yeah, I'll catch up with it. I think I might have seen clips of it. He's a African American, right?
No,
it's a different one.
Oh,
so that guy,
that's a different one.
So yeah. So the guy you're talking about, that was the guy that was like pulled over. And the officer that pulled him over, which I believe was also, I think it was also Officer Kitchen. He basically tells him like, oh, you're not supposed to be in the carpool lane. He's like, I wasn't in the carpool lane, I was exiting. And then it turned out that Officer Kitchen was completely wrong about everything. So the guy was 100% right. I
loved it, the way he handled it. Give me my ticket or fuck off.
Yeah, he basically said, yeah, just give me my ticket or fuck off, basically.
Yeah.
This is the one that we saw last night. This one was pretty bad. Like, we won't go through the whole thing. But,
against the American Folk
it
Police.
was this
I
gentleman
bought
right
a few.
here.
Yeah,
This
that
gentleman, yeah, he ends up getting assaulted by the police. We'll just show this part right here because
from behind.
so he's right here.
I could feel Officer Cannon coming. I could hear his equipment on him jiggling, and I could feel something coming.
Jeez.
He was,
Oh
I don't know
my.
if you've ever been.
Yeah.
and he was
yeah.
already on his knees. He was already like surrendered,
Yep. And then from there, they just proceed to just
wail
beat
on him, bro.
beat
Yeah.
the ever living mess out of him.
Yeah.
It gets pretty bad. Yeah,
But like
you said.
as you saw, like he was even more subdued because like that guy landed almost on top of him when he went down. Like he threw all his body weight on top of that guy.
Yep. Yeah, it was pretty bad. He ended up suing, but I think he ended up settling with them. But nothing. There was no like disciplinary action that anybody knows of for the
Adamson
officers.
got promoted after that, didn't he?
Yep,
Jeez.
and Adamson literally got promoted right after. Yep, he got promoted to lieutenant not long after that, which is insane. But so I guess what I'd like to know, and this is a question I've had, is like in regards to the way Ben and his friends were treated. What's something that what are some what's some, I guess, routes for them in regards to civil litigation, because I would think they would have a case, right, with some of their civil rights being violated, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll caveat what I'm about to say, in that I'm not a civil rights attorney, so I'm not an expert on bringing causes of action against police officers, but yeah, there are claims you can bring for violations of your Fourth or Fifth Amendment rights, violations of due process, violations of essentially your First Amendment rights as well. You have to get over the qualified immunity hurdle. And again, I'm not the expert, but like there's one channel I watch a lot is a civil rights lawyer, and he's really the expert in the field on, I think, on YouTube. And it's hard to beat that qualified immunity. But then again, some of the things you see them doing, they get a search warrant to search a house for Legos based on the word of I guess the landlord.
Yeah.
And then from the video, it doesn't appear that they actually ever searched the house, but then they arrested everyone in the house.
Yeah.
The repeated talking about you shouldn't film, I'm filming, but when the body cam really wasn't recording, things like that, where it puts a bad taste in your mouth, and really police can't prevent you from filming. You have a First Amendment right, especially if you're the one engaged in the interaction. They were trying to block that. The stop, not the first one. I think the first one where they said you ran the stop sign, that's kind of like arguable, because while they did come to a stop, they came to a stop after the line. If you look at the video, they passed the stop sign line and then came to a stop. So, okay, you're going to pull someone over for that. That's kind of being a jerk, but maybe you have an argument there. The next day, though, when they had him for like an hour and a half, claiming they had drugs, putting them through the police dog search. First off, it wasn't even clear what the lawful basis of the stop was to begin with, but then they extended that stop for like an hour and a half to do the dog search, and you can't do that. I know enough about Fourth Amendment law that you can't extend a traffic stop any longer than would be normal to complete the traffic stop. You can't take what would be a 4-minute traffic stop and even extend it to like 10 minutes so that you have a police dog. They extended it to like an hour and a half or something, if I remember the timestamp.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy.
Yeah, well over an hour. See, another thing I wanted to ask you from search warrants, right? Because I think if and correct me if I'm wrong, because from what I remember seeing the search warrant, it only pertained to the basement, I believe, in the search warrant.
I heard that as well. I haven't read that search warrant, but that's what I saw reported also.
So in the case of like what they did, right, where they just kind of stormed the place, got everybody out, and they just kind of, it looks like they went, they just kind of popped in upstairs and throughout different parts of the living room. They were just kind of like in and out. So even that, would that be something that they can basically get in trouble for? Because it seems like if it just pertains to the basement, it would just be them going to the basement, right?
So two things there. First, I don't know the layout of the house to know what is considered the basement there. It looked like there was multiple stories. I don't know if it's on a hill or on stilts or something where the basement could be at ground level, but still be the basement. But number two, they may have only needed the basement in the search warrant because they may have had consent from the property owner to search the rest of the house. Wow. Since this was an Airbnb, and again, I'm kind of speculating. I don't know for sure. I have heard that the owner of the Airbnb where they were staying had a relationship with the police. Yeah. So the owner may have given them consent, but I believe the owner could only give consent to the common areas or the areas under the owner's control. The owner can't give consent to the area that's being rented out in the Airbnb. And so that may explain why they only got the basement in the search warrant, because they may have only needed that. But again, I'm not sure.
Like a little bit to expand on that too, because I believe the search warrant was authorized for stolen Legos, but if they didn't find anything, do they have a reason for arrest?
I think it depends on what's in the actual warrant. And again, I haven't read it, so I don't recall if there was anything in there that said that they could also effectuate an arrest. There may have been something about arresting Reckless Ben, but I don't know if there was anything about arresting the rest of the people in the house. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's what we thought too when we're going over it too. It's just like that maybe for Ben, I could maybe see a situation where they can I guess in their way, right, in the American Fork way, just quote unquote justify, arresting Ben or have a probable cause to arrest him. But it's like, but everybody else, I was kind of like, I don't know how they get away with arresting everybody else in that house, though.
Well, I could see that if they found an inclination of stolen Legos, but they didn't find anything, they just kind of arrested him on the spot. So I don't know. That's the confusing part to me.
Yeah,
So,
and that's really where a civil rights attorney would be able to weigh in probably better than I can. I do all my work on the civil side.
Of course.
So I know I have a slightly above layman's understanding of the processes for that.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. I'm sure. Did you see Clearly Establish's video on their training? On the
I saw part of it. I think, yeah.
Yeah, no, that was crazy because it was like he went over 9 of them that were a part of that, right? That have been a part of this whole situation. And
do you want to take a guess who's on that list?
Is it some of the faces that we saw from?
One primarily, yeah. John, you want to tell him?
Yeah, Adamson. Yeah, Adamson, I think was like first on the list. But yeah, Adamson, Tonga, Tonga, the guy who kept saying, we do things differently here. He was on that list. A lot. Yeah, so there was like 9 officers that have been involved with this situation that Clearly Established went over, that he looked over their training, and none of them had any kind of basic civil rights training. But what was interesting, though, is that some of them did have some public relations and media training.
Jeez.
Which I thought was kind of funny. It's just like, okay, so they don't know people's civil rights, but I guess they got them prepared for if somebody shoves a microphone in their face and starts asking them questions, which I thought was interesting.
There seems to be a need to retrain a lot of these officers out there.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not going to come from YouTube-based pressure. That can only come from pressure from within the community.
Oh yeah, I think so too. And I think that's one of the things we've talked about too at length about this whole situation and why. And I want to get your opinion on this too, because I'm of the opinion that now that American Fork is being put, under the microscope the way they are now, I think that's because the Thorpe case, which we mentioned earlier as well, the lady who the police just barged into her house and tried to arrest her and stuff like that. I know that her case is still currently active. It's still in litigation against the American Fork Police Department. But I'm wondering, if because of all the attention that American Fork is getting now as well, do you think that could have any kind of, I would say that it would maybe, because she's been, that case has been going on for a few years now. Do you think that might help her case maybe reach a resolution quicker now that they're kind of in the public limelight?
It might if the community is concerned. By community here, I mean the city. If they're concerned that there is more attention being put on them, they may want to try to make some disputes go away. It may increase the chances of a settlement for that particular case.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, because we were talking about that too, and with I don't know about the other gentleman. I don't think he's filed the lawsuit. The one for the people that they came and banged on their door in the middle of the night. But I do know that going over Lackluster's video, he was talking about how the husband was trying to find information. I would assume probably to file a lawsuit himself, but he was having trouble getting certain records because when he asked for like copies of the citations that they came to drop off that night when they were banging on his door at 10:30, repeatedly and telling them to come outside and telling his wife to come outside, and he refused. When he requested those later on, because I believe it was 3 citations, all of a sudden those citations were nowhere to be seen. They just disappeared.
Yeah. I wanted to bring that up. Because in terms of like always muting their mics or stuff like that, or even in terms of the redactions that they had in the reckless Ben incident, like they have a pattern of behavior of always like conveniently covering their own asses, I'd say. So,
You know, that the muting of the microphones is interesting because Utah actually has, I've heard a few folks talk about how it could be a violation of the law, could be a violation of policy. But I did look this up, and Utah law actually has this weird law with their body cam footage law that says officers can mute body cam for the purpose of conferring with fellow officers. And that just seems weird to me and totally wild, because like the concern that people should have is exactly what we're seeing with Reckless Ben. They're conferring not because they've got legitimate questions that they need to talk about that could be privileged. They're trying to figure out what they could pin the guy on, right? Like,
yeah,
they're going, oh, well, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. You know,
they're conspiring, would you say?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just wild. But that's where I do have a slight disagreement with some of the folks, because I don't think it's necessarily a violation of the statutes. I think it might be a violation of, like, you know, Fourth or Fifth Amendment or some of the other amendments, right to confront accusers, things like that. But Utah's got this law that lets cops do it, and that's probably something the Utah legislature should take a look at and revisit.
Yeah, and there's one point I would like to add to all that too. In that video that we were talking about, that the guy got tackled, and they proceed to, like, you know, assault him. When they're speaking to him towards the end of it, they mute their mics while they're speaking to him. So, like, it's not even redacted. So we'll never know what they said. You know what I mean? To that guy, you know? So I always find stuff like that always weird and in their favor for some reason. You know what I mean? Because as bad as it looks, we'll never know how it ended because they muted it. Yeah.
And they muted the evidence. They destroyed the evidence that would be necessary to uncover their, allegedly improper behavior.
And to hold them accountable, I'd say, as well, right? Yeah.
Okay, just real quick. Rube, thank you for the 5 Australian. Appreciate the support, buddy. Q's for BBQ. Does moving court lengthen case? If the new court is granted, does AFPD conduct become part of the B&M case? Can any party be referred? So a couple questions there for you.
Yeah. So the first answer is possibly. Not because this first civil case got very far, but it would just come down to how quickly, like, what your average time to trial is in that particular state court versus average time to trial in the federal court. I don't know the answers to those off the top of my head. It's not inherently or necessarily going to lengthen the case, because the case really hasn't gone very far. I mean, it was only filed 3 or 4 weeks ago or whatever it is. So it may, but that would just come down to how the federal judge administers his or her or courtroom. So we'll know more about that when we see who the judge is. As to the second question, it's not a matter of the new court being granted. It's done. Removal to federal court is not something you request permission to have happen. It's an affirmative act that a defendant can do. So I put in my video yesterday, you have 2 requirements. The first requirement is called diversity of citizenship. You basically make a list of all the plaintiffs, you put it on the left side of the paper. You make a list of all the defendants, you put that on the right side of the paper, and everyone on the left side has to be from a different state from everyone on the right side. And here you have that, because everyone on the left side is Utah, with the exception of Bricks and Minifigs Corporate, which is a Delaware corporation. Then on the right, you've got everyone's from California, except for Brian Mansell, who's from Oregon. So as long as you meet that, and then the second requirement is that you have to have at least $75,000 in dispute, then the defendants have the right at that point under federal law to move the case. So they literally file the paperwork with the federal court, send that same paperwork to the state court, and then it's done. So the case is now, as we sit here this evening, in federal court. I also know that last night, so it was filed by by Reckless Ben and his team. But then last night, Brian Mansell filed something that said, also us, we agree. So it was there anyway, but they did that so that everyone knows that all the defendants are of like mind and having the case removed to federal court.
That's awesome. So, what Rube is saying here, does AFPD conduct become part of the Bricks and Minifigs case?
Probably not. No, it would be almost certainly a separate lawsuit.
Yeah.
That they would file. They could file that also in federal court. I think they may be able to file it in state, but they would have a choice as to which one they'd want to file it in.
Interesting.
And the last question Rube asked: can any party be referred?
I'm not sure what we mean here, other than if we're saying, can any party be, taken up to federal court? The whole case got moved. So it wasn't just like Reckless Ben's part of the case or Brian Mansell's. It's everywhere. The entire case moves together. So everyone in the case is now in federal court.
Nice.
Interesting.
So we have Man Blossom 82 with 2. Thank you, buddy, for the support. He asks, isn't that just hiding charge shopping? Not sure what that means.
I think that was about the muting of the cameras, and yeah, that's the problem. The only qualm I had is I've heard some of the folks on YouTube say that it's a violation of statute or a violation of department policy. I'm not sure it is, because I think the problem is that Utah has a law that lets them do it. And that's the problem, is that law exists.
Man Blossom with 5, appreciate it. But I would like to know if moving to the federal court will increase the chances of a federal investigation into this situation.
No, this is still a civil dispute that's involved. If we think back to our civics classes when we were younger, federal courts are Article 3 of the Constitution. They're separate branch of government from the executive branch. So the fact that something got moved into federal court doesn't have any bearing on any investigations that may be going on about American Fork or whatnot.
Okay. Yeah. See, when you were talking about it yesterday in your video, it's something we also kind of, and you mentioned it. I think you also mentioned in your video was. We thought it was great that it got moved to federal court, because there's like, we feel, it's going to be a more fair trial now.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. The reason why this process exists, it's very old. It might even be somewhere in the Constitution. I hadn't looked that up, but it's a very old process. And if you think back to like the 1800s, like the early 1800s, when people considered their state to be their country. If someone from Virginia was suing someone from North Carolina in Virginia, there were significant concerns that the Virginian court would give deference and bias in favor of its own citizen. And so Congress has this rule specifically to reduce not only actual bias, but the appearance of bias. It's there because Article 3 federal judges are appointed by the president. They serve for life. They do not have to be elected or reelected, and they're not subject to the whims of an election season the way almost all state court judges are. And so because of that, there is a sense that a federal judge could be more neutral in a situation like this, where you have people from different states.
Right.
And one other, I think, big point that shouldn't get lost is the jury pool.
Oh, yeah.
When you're in state court, your jury pool is basically like, I don't know exactly how it's split up in Utah. I'll use California as an example. California has 50 something counties. Each county has a superior court. If you are, in superior court for a jury trial, you pull from within your own county. But if you are in, for example, the Northern District of California, the Northern District of California goes from the Oregon border down to the San Francisco Bay Area. It's hundreds of miles. It's many counties. Southern District of California is like all of San Diego and I think Orange County, 2 huge population centers. Central District is Los Angeles County, and then the counties east of Los Angeles. It's multiple counties is what I'm getting at. So your jury pool is broader, and the effect of that is you're not going to have as big a risk that you're getting a bunch of hometown jurors that might like the American Fork and what happens in American Fork, and maybe they know Ammon or Matt or Josh or Brandon or something like that. You don't have the risks of those kind of small town biases through being in federal court. Yeah,
that's what we thought too. That we're happy about it. We're just like, great. That was like great news. Like when we were watching your videos, like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah,
like
I'm looking even more forward to this case now. Go ahead.
It would also basically decrease the chances of them prolonging, like, they had stated. I don't know if they stated it to Ben specifically, but they have made statements before where they would just prolong, the lawsuits to put you in financial debt. So I think it would decrease the chances of that as well, right?
It might. I can't speak to how things happen in Utah State Court, but federal courts tend to, you get a schedule and you tend to stick to that schedule. It doesn't mean that a trial date might not slip here or there, but they're better organized. One thing that often happens in state courts, because they're so crowded and overwhelmed, is your case might be ready for trial, but then you show up on the date of your trial and there's like 5 or 6 other trials scheduled for the same day as yours. And so you actually just get put on this like rotating cattle call where, eventually your number gets pulled and then your trial can start, like, but that could take months. You show up, okay, you're set for trial. You got to show up once a month. That doesn't happen nearly as much in federal courts because the cases are more discreet and the judges aren't as busy. You get a trial date and that tends to, you have a more definitive schedule. So yeah, it is correct in that sense.
That's what's up.
Awesome. So another thing I want to ask you, what do you think is, from your experience in seeing, civil cases play out, what do you think is the most probable scenario how things are going to play out? Because me and Aura, we've gone over a few cases and stuff before in the past, and almost always, and we've always kind of like, whenever we've speculated, it's like, this sounds like it's probably going to end in settlement, and a lot of times it's settlement. What do you think is the likelihood that it'll be either a settlement, or do you think there's a strong possibility that it could go all the way to jury trial based on what you've seen?
No case has a strong chance of going to jury trial. 90% of all civil litigation settles before jury trial. So just on that statistic alone, no, it's very likely to settle. Other things that impact this, it's like I said, kind of earlier in the stream, aren't we really fighting over accounting at this point? Isn't this really what it comes down to? I mean, everyone goes away if you just get an accountant in there. That lends itself towards some, towards some kind of settlement. Yeah. I also think that while the plaintiffs were pretty bold early on, I think the amount they've spoken to in the media is really damaged their litigation position. Because there's been so many inconsistencies. Yeah. And so that impacts the credibility of their witnesses and impacts their ability to win. So that kind of erodes their leverage a bit. And that could also bring them to the table. And then I think there's the public pressure. They don't want this scrutinized for the next year. So yeah, I think ultimately it will settle. I think there's going to be some more litigation. I think when we were dealing last week with just the parties trying to convince the old Judge Graff, that he needed to just sign the revised preliminary injunction language. They said in there, like, look, we're trying to settle the case. We're going to go to mediation. We just need this part off the table. We've all kind of agreed what the rules of the game are going to be here. I thought, okay, probably, we'll see like a little bit, like maybe someone will answer the complaint. Maybe we'll see a little bit of action, but it looks like things are kind of maybe going to start headed towards mediation and kind of settle down a bit. But then yesterday happened and you flipped the script. You shot the case up to federal court. There's discussions. There is a reference in one of the pleadings to filing an anti-SLAPP motion. And without getting into the merits of the anti-SLAPP, it tells me that the defendants are thinking very strongly about filing counterclaims. And an anti-SLAPP isn't necessarily a counterclaim. It's typically a type of motion you bring early on in the case.
Yeah.
So it suggests that defendants are gearing up to litigate this strongly, which means we're not going to see a settlement right away. We're going to see some stuff happen. There's going to be some action in this case, at least action the way I, as a lawyer, consider it. It's probably not as exciting to normal people. But we're going to see some stuff happen before the parties sit down and reach an agreement, because the defendants probably now want an opportunity to, within the confines of the legal battle itself, they want a chance to change things up, right? You've got this weird RICO claim, you've got defamation, you've got like civil conspiracy, all these things the plaintiffs are alleging, and the defendants now probably want an opportunity to get their counterclaims on file and to maybe knock out some of those existing claims against them to kind of rebalance the situation heading into a mediation.
That's what's like. I mean, from what we've seen, like
It'll be interesting to see, man. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with it, what's going to come to the table and everything.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too. Like just looking at everything and how it's played out, because one of the things we talked about, we're talking about as well when this whole thing happened, even prior to it moving up to federal court, we thought it was interesting, like with the whole TRO thing, right? And I was looking at that as kind of a good sign too, because I feel like I think they realize now also, and you could correct me if I'm wrong here, the BAM realizes the position that they're in. I think they're now more acutely aware of how bad things have gone for them in the public space, and it seems like they're more willing to play ball, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it, to try to be like, okay, well, yeah, we'll agree with you, yeah, let's change this or whatever now. But I'm also thinking maybe part of that is they're giving a little bit of, doing a little bit of that concession, maybe also to see if it. And again, correct me if I'm wrong here. Could that also be like a strategy on their part to see if there's something that Ben or people close to them are going to put out that they could also use to their advantage?
I don't know if it's that they're capitulating and becoming more reasonable in their positions because of the PR pressure. I sincerely believe that there were many problems with that TRO, and they were the ones that wrote it, right? The way this works is you file a motion, and every time you file a motion, you attach for the court a proposed order. And a lot of times the court it will just adopt the proposed order of the side that wins. Well, here there was only one side because it was filed the same day that they filed the complaint. And when the judge decided to grant it, he kind of followed that practice of just adopting the proposed order from the prevailing side. Problem is that they slipped in a bunch of problems, like all the constitutional restrictions, the 1,000 yards, all the vagueness stuff that the court was complaining about a few days ago. That was all in the original TR. So there's so many problems with that. These guys, the plaintiffs, did not want to have to walk into the June 30th hearing having to defend their actions there, because they bear the burden. When you're talking about a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction, even though the court granted it as a TRO, the way it works is you walk into that hearing and the judge says, okay, look, I gave you that case, it was 3 or 4 weeks. I gave you your 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. Now you have to justify why this thing needs to stay in place till the end of the case. And they were going to have some serious problems because of the constitutional issues in there. And they had put the judge in a bad spot. And I don't subscribe to the theory that the judge was being corrupt or being lazy. I mean, these are kind of standard judicial practices, but I can guarantee you that the judge was pissed. And he was pissed. He was pissed because he started pushing back when the parties came and said, okay, Your Honor, we've all agreed to a mutual set of language here. We all agree to the ground rules of what people can and can't do during the litigation. And the judge now said, not good enough. I've got issues. It's too vague. he was mad.
Mhm.
And then you saw that hasty filing Thursday from the plaintiff. I mean, it was signed by everybody, but the plaintiffs wrote it.
Mhm.
And I think at that point they knew this case was going up to the federal court, and they were trying to get the judge to sign that preliminary injunction before the case got removed to federal court. And the judge didn't do it. And now the plaintiffs are in a bit of a pickle over it, because the TRO is not supposed to last more than 14 days. And
Sheesh.
we don't know what's going. They don't know what's going on. They didn't get the preliminary injunction, so now they have to go to the federal judge and go hat in hand and ask the federal judge to put that in place. So, no, I don't think ultimately they were doing this out of the goodness of their heart or because of public pressure. I think they knew that they were going to lose big time.
So it was more, yeah. So it had nothing to do. It had nothing to do with any kind of what's the word we're looking for here? Any kind of thoughtfulness after the fact. It's just more like
No, because a lot of this is now going to be driven by the lawyers and the lawyers' strategy for the case, and far less of it's going to be driven by Bricks and Minifigs. Don't get me wrong. Could that have also been a consideration? Absolutely. You know, if corporate was going to their lawyers and saying, "Look, we're getting excoriated. Our franchisees are losing business. We got to do something." That absolutely could have been one consideration. I just think that the lawyers knew they were going to get completely annihilated at the hearing.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Real quick, John, we have some
Go
people
ahead.
to thank in chat.
Yeah. So Rose investigates with you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Appreciate the support. Rose wants to know if you've heard of the BAM map.
Yeah, so the BAM map is something that I know some internet sleuths are putting together, in investigating, just mapping out the entirety of all the players in related to BAM, the McNeffs, all their family members, all their sordid history of the family suing each other, strange divorce records. There's all sorts of stuff, and there's some really talented group of people that are mapping all of that stuff out and really putting together a very, very interesting set of evidence into the workings and dealings of BAM and its the controlling family and their other companies.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. I'd heard somebody mention it yesterday, but I didn't know what it was. So you just explained it there.
Rose, if you have a link, send it to us, please. We will look at it.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, link it to us. Man Blossom 82 at the 5. Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. He says, if this gets dropped, is there any way to hold them accountable for the way BAM abused? If this gets dropped, is there any way to hold them accountable for the way BAM abused their power? Follow up. Can Ben still countersue if dropped?
The terms of holding them accountable, I mean, the way people in the public hold other members of the public accountable. And by that, I don't mean, violating any laws, but, don't shop at Bricks and Minifigs. Tell your friends and family, don't shop at Bricks and Minifigs. It dropped. I didn't see the second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
question.
Here we go. Sorry about that.
Can Ben still countersue if the main case is dropped? Yes. Yeah. A counterclaim doesn't require the main claim to exist. So they would still have their whatever counterclaims they're thinking of, they would still have.
John, you have one more. I don't know if you saw it.
Trying to see which one is it?
Laughable Larry, 9243. He gave you $5. He said, "This is for the cause." Thank you, Laughable Larry.
Oh, yeah. We got that one.
Hell yeah, John.
I wanted to ask you about the hearing. So as far as we know, then the hearing is still happening on the 30th. And is it happening still at that Utah court, or is it going to be reassigned somewhere else?
Nope. There's no hearing.
Yeah,
there's no longer a state case.
Okay.
So it's federal court. They filed in Central Division of the District of Utah, which is Salt Lake City. It's several counties, but it also includes Salt Lake City. So we will know Monday or Tuesday, depending how quickly things happen in the District of Utah. We will know who the new judge is early next week. And that new judge will then probably hold some kind of status conference where the parties will come in and they'll start putting things to organization. But no, there's no June 30th hearing because that was purely the state court stuff, and that is done.
Okay. So all these hearings that were coming up, they're probably not they're not happening there anymore.
Well,
right?
there are other criminal cases that Ben's involved in. Those are all still in state court. So it's just the civil suit, the civil RICO, the defamation, that stuff that got moved to federal.
Okay. All right. So we have KT. What is it? KT Lynn. How does the TRO reflect on Nash at all?
Not sure who is Nash. Oh, is that the attorneys? Let me check. Is that the attorneys at Denton's?
I'm not confident enough to say yes. So that's
I've got everything on my computer. 1 second.
Yeah.
Somebody said William Kelly Nash.
William Kelly Nash. It doesn't reflect a lot on them. They made arguments, right? They argued that the TRO is necessary for all sorts of reasons. They asked that those free speech restrictions be put on the TRO. It tells you maybe something a little bit about their style of litigation and how they'll approach things. It's not going to reflect on them in the sense that like he's a bad lawyer, because there are many lawyers out here who would have asked for that. It's just the problem is that the judge just didn't know to not grant that part of it.
Okay. We got another one here. John Dickens with the 5. Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for the support. Ben's attorney needs to modify the federal court filings. They listed BAM Franchising Inc. in Marion County, Oregon, instead of Marion County, Delaware.
Did they have that typo in there? Yeah. If so, they can fix that if they need to. It's probably not necessary. The bottom line is that there's complete diversity.
Yeah. So speaking of typos, because that's something we had talked to you about beforehand in regards to Relic's termination letter, because that's something I know you had spoke about it before too in previous videos you had done about BAM having a pattern of behavior, because that's something I'm pretty convinced of too, especially with how they deal with their franchisees. And again, just me purely speculating. Obviously, I can't say this as a matter of fact, but given how they've dealt with not just Relic and Katie Gorman, but looks like how they tried to deal with the Messers, and that to me was a big revelation with Relic's letter. I believe that they were planning on doing something similar to the Messers as well, that they were going to try to get them out under the same violation of the franchise agreement. Because if you look at Relic's and you look at Crystal Gorman's the letter of termination, they cite the same part of the franchise agreement at the very beginning. Of course, with Crystal, they went a few extra steps more with her, but with Relic and with Crystal, they cited that section 14 part of their franchise agreement. And I believe that given the fact that Relic received what looked like to be a template for the Messers termination letter, that they were probably going to do the same to them.
I mean, it's a form letter, right? And so their lawyers probably had the form letter on file that they just update to the new people who they're sending it to, and probably add a few paragraphs here or there. But the thing with the Messers is I think the agreements expired naturally, because I think the franchise agreements only were in effect for like 10 years. And so 10 years expired towards the end of 2023. So there wasn't a need to push and say we're terminating, because it had already expired naturally.
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason why they were able to why they were able to achieve some of the things they achieved, because Bricks and Minifigs wasn't swift enough in pushing for some of its rights.
Yeah. I think that because the Relic situation and Crystal Gorman situation came after that, I feel like they might have maybe learned a little bit from the Messer situation and just kind of jumped the gun a little bit sooner is what it seems like how they approached the situation with Relic
Maybe.
and with Crystal Gorman. Of course, again, can't say as a matter of fact, but it just seems that way because when you hear Crystal talk about how they handled her situation, at least insofar as what we saw in her filings
Mhm.
for her legal case, she mentions the fact that all she did was she didn't commit to anything. She hadn't committed to anything just yet, but she kind of roundabout told them like, hey, you know, my husband's looking at an opportunity potentially across seas for employment. We're not saying anything set in stone yet, but just kind of just giving you a little bit of a heads up. And then it seemed like they were really, it seemed like Bam was, you know, they just kind of like jumped the gun a little bit on her situation and trying to get her out of her or get her out of there after she mentioned that.
Well, and it's a good lesson because I think what the Messers did is they hired their attorney before they told Bricks and Minifigs they were not renewing, so they had the pieces in place, and I think that's a difference from what Crystal Law and Ben Gorman did. I think they might have made a mention to BAM Corporate and they didn't have legal counsel lined up already.
Yeah,
and I think that the differences in the results are at least in some part because of that.
Yeah, because it seems like if they're tipped off or if they even suspect, it seems like because the way it came across, because we watched your video when you were going over the Messers case and we were looking at those messages, those Slack messages, and it almost came across like, you know, even though this wasn't said, just to make it clear to the chat, this wasn't said in those messages, but the way they came across was almost like Eamon almost being like, you can't leave me. I leave you, you know, okay, kind of like that seemed to be like kind of the sentiment almost behind it, just the way that those messages were coming across.
The crazy one that I just thought was just the most hilarious was when the guy's like, I'm now going to pay you by check. And I get it. There's a system in place. I'm not saying there isn't. It was just reading the messages back and forth like, you can't pay me by check. You can only pay me this way. I will not recognize your check. I don't legally recognize the money you're trying to pay me. It's like I get what was going on. Like they have a system in place. That's how they want to be paid. But it's like, dude, have some self-awareness of how this is looking. Bricks and Minifigs is the one that attached that. They sued the Messers and they attached that to the complaint. It's like, you look ridiculous in this. Like, who told you it was a good idea to put as an exhibit to your complaint that you were telling other franchisees to go spy on them? Like, it's like, can you go spy? Can you go check out what's going on? They're getting a little squirrely. They're leaving the reservation. Can you see what's up? It's like, this looks horrible for you. Why would these people attach this? It's like, have some like self-editing ability. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Well, someone refresh my memory. So real quick, was Brandon involved in that one as well or no? Because I feel like they always kind of send him in to be that guy.
There is nothing I saw in the public filings that made me think Brandon was engaged. There was something in the public filings that made me think Josh wasn't involved. And I'll qualify this by saying I'm not 100% sure. But in those Slack messages, if you flip to a certain page, and I think I edited it out of the video, there's a guy. Let me pull up the. One second. So there's a guy in and amidst the Slack conversations where they're talking about the Messers are going to leave. There's someone with the handle name Fran_dev_expansion. So like franchise development expansion. Yeah. And it's a person in a suit, round, totally bald. Looks like it might be our buddy Josh, but it's a very small thing and it's low resolution. So I was like, I'm not putting that in the video. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Right.
But that was the only thing is it's like that, like maybe if that was Josh, maybe he had some involvement. But again, it's not clear to me.
I wouldn't be shocked, to be honest with you, but still.
No, me neither. Me neither. Let me, Man Blossom 82. Thank you so much for the 5. There's also a video on Bam Sunks where Eamon laments not being able to take over 4 businesses early on. I haven't seen that video yet, but I think I know the one that you're talking about, Man Blossom. Because the Bam Sucks channel was the one that shared a lot of those initial, unredacted body cam videos. And I remember seeing those and thinking about how bad those look for Bricks and Minifigs. But when we saw the CoffeeZilla video, I'm like, why did they agree to do this? This is terrible for them. I'm like, there's so many bad things that he's saying on record here to Coffee that there's no way this is not going to be used against him. This looks like really bad. I'm like, so many embarrassing moments. Like to me, the biggest ones were obviously the U-Haul thing, right? The contradictions with the U-Haul, but also to me, the even more embarrassing one after that was, you remember when Coffee told him, like, hey, you have the inventory list. And he's like, well, where do you see that? He's like, well, it's right here. It's like literally in Dell's Dropbox.
It's
like,
so
it's been here.
Yeah.
He's like, it's been here since September of 2024, like before all this stuff went down. It's like, it's been here the whole time. And he's like, well, I didn't see it. It's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so bad, man. I'm like, why did they agree to do this?
And then, the Matt McNeff stuff with we only had like these 3 boxes, and then they show all these other photos with all these other boxes that were not on their list. That's the problem, is everyone was so 100% sure that they were right. And they didn't diligence this. They didn't audit things, and they rushed into litigation.
Yeah. Well, look, like when you see the part where Matt's going over, what sets, he's seeing on his inventory list, right? And the ones that Coffee is going over, he's like, okay, do you have this set number? Do you have this set number? And he's going off of the ones that are, in pictures and stuff like that. And Coffee tells him, these sets that I'm reading off to you now, these are ones that were allegedly in the back, in the back or in a safe in the back. And I think there's only one of those that's accounted for in the list that Matt has. And what's interesting is that the rest are not. And I've always said this, because people, when you look at that, and you look at like Matt, not knowing that, where that stuff is, where it was, then Coffee's telling him, well, these are pictures that Crystal took, these are time-stamped and everything. And then he doesn't know where those sets are at. And it's crazy to me because it's just like, I think it's, and again, can't say with certainty, right? Because we weren't there, but my theory is that when Brandon sees the store that night, and I think this is part that the people had overlooked too. If you look at the Ring camera videos, before Crystal leaves, she tells Brandon the combination to the safe and tells him where the keys are, to the stuff in the back. So I think it's, and again, and it's just like, I think it's a pretty safe, thing to speculate. It's just like, okay, well, he got the combination to the safe and there was sets missing from the safe. I'm not saying he took them, but it's awfully convenient that they all of a sudden they weren't on that on Matt McNeff's inventory, right? That he got. So
yeah, I feel like I don't know the truth of it. I feel like maybe the accounting on the side of like what Brian Mansell needed to be paid out, and where some of the sets are. I feel like the accounting on that wasn't particularly great.
Yeah.
I think that was exacerbated by the way the takeover happened,
Yes.
right? Like
I think so too.
They had as far as I can recall from the various videos and stuff, they had a call on like November 13th about this. The takeover was going to happen, or there was a call the morning of November 14th. And then Brandon shows up at the store the night of November 14th and throws them out, changes the locks. And okay, but while I understand that there were probably some accounting issues going on in that store, And even I think that Crystal Law acknowledged that in the CoffeeZilla video.
Yeah.
All of that's exacerbated by the way BAM corporate handled things.
Yeah.
Because they rushed to take things over, and then they didn't. If I'm giving everyone the benefit of the doubt at that point, BAM corporate didn't know what they didn't know, and they knew about the consignment, but they didn't have Crystal's records. They didn't even know what a lot of the records were, but they kicked her out, changed the locks, and said, "Don't come back." They trespassed her. So, and then Brian Mansell comes in and they trespass him immediately. Like all of that stuff it just added to the problem. So even if there were originally like some accounting issues, all of that gets exacerbated by the way BAM corporate handled themselves.
Yep. I thought the same exact thing.
That's why these kinds of things end up in litigation, because rather than just everyone being sensible and let's get an accountant and figure this out, rather than de-escalating the situation, they escalated it.
Right. So Katie Lynn's for the two says, WTF BBQ, you've been sitting on this. I think she's referring to, the Josh thing.
Bro, I didn't want to stop you guys, but chat has been fucking roasting Josh, and it's hilarious.
I will say that we did talk about the same thing on LUS's stream a few weeks ago. He looked it up and showed it on his stream.
Gosh.
But yeah, I mean, the problem is that it's a very small image and it kind of looks like Josh, but the resolution's not enough that I could zoom in and go, okay, yeah, that's Josh.
That's okay.
No,
Josh makes a lot of claims anyway. He's a scumbag. Fuck that guy. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Katie
Bro, did you see? I'm so sorry. Real quick, did you see in the chat where somebody said that Josh's shoes harassed his feet? That's why he doesn't wear them. I'm sorry. I had to.
I don't understand the feet thing. It's kind of weird.
Dude.
I mean, I go outside sometimes barefoot, but I don't know if I'd be walking around barefoot with cops.
To talk to the police.
Nah, it's weird. Yeah. Katie Lee with the 5. My theory on BAM's CoffeeZilla photos is that they aren't pics; they're screenshots of a video. Well, that's the funny thing too. I thought was interesting in CoffeeZilla's video as well, is that there's never a point where you hear CoffeeZilla say, "Well, they provided He did say that they provided pictures too, but what's interesting though is that you never hear him say like, and they also provided me metadata, the timestamps for those photos.
Well, and you also didn't hear that they provided photographs of what was in the safe, which is what the Gormans are contending is they might not have gotten photographs of every single angle of the store, but they got photographs of what was in the safe. And as far as I could piece together the CoffeeZilla video, and I will defer to some of the sleuths I see in chat that I think are more connected. My understanding is that that's a lot of the controversy is Bricks and Minifigs just were 100% convinced that there wasn't very much there, and they omitted the safe, where the most valuable stuff was supposed to be kept at the time.
Yep, the most high end sets. Rubate, thank you so much with the 2 Australian. If you haul a crime, is a court not bound to refer?
I don't know if the U-Haul stuff. Well, like what we're talking about, I'm guessing is whether Brandon carted off a bunch of Legos in the mystery U-Haul. I don't know. Will it increase the chances of something being referred? No. For this reason, that a lot of that stuff is being litigated in the separate lawsuit between the Gormans and Bricks and Minifigs, and the Gormans themselves chose to litigate in I think they're litigating in state court.
Yeah, in Oregon.
So is it in Oregon? That was what I was trying to remember.
I believe theirs was filed in Oregon. I can look it up real quick though.
They made the same calculation that Bricks and Minifigs made, that the home court advantage in state court is better. So in that case, it's not a matter about the U-Haul or any of the issues. It's about whether Bricks and Minifigs thinks that they are better off having the case removed to federal court. Although there, I think they did take a different tack. I think Bricks and Minifigs filed a response or filed a motion that said that dispute needs to go to arbitration. So they're not trying to get it removed to federal court. They're trying to get it to go to arbitration.
Oh, they actually. So I'm looking at it now. No, actually, the Gormans filed in Utah.
Okay, they filed in Utah,
Yeah, they filed in
but it's Utah State Court, right?
Here, let me share it here because I pulled it up. Looks like they filed in Utah. Here you go.
Yep. Yeah, Business and Chancery Court. So that's a different state court, but it's a state court.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, we have somebody. So Katie Lynn with the 2, they did have safe picks, but not lower safe shelves.
Oh yeah. Kayla's like, they thought it was a bookshelf. Remember, he's like, I think Coffee said, he's like, that's the bottom of the safe. He's like, that looks like a bookshelf to me. I think it was Matt McNeff, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Matt McNeff. Yeah, it was.
Poor Matt. Poor
See,
Matt
like,
being related to him.
like I said, I've speculated on what I think could have happened that night, especially when you look at the mileage between the Salem store and the Eugene store. It all kind of
John,
and you see the receipt. What's up?
You know what rubs me the wrong way is how they're like, it wasn't a U-Haul, it was a rental car. I was like, what the fuck did you need a rental car for? Like, just conveniently. That's the part that I'm like, it's just such a spit in the face sometimes. It's not a U-Haul, it's a rental car. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Just shut up. I'm sorry. Please go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, there was no U-Haul there. It was a rental car. It wasn't a rental car. It was a U-Haul, but the U-Haul was because it was
something else.
Something was being towed by the U-Haul and
some trailer.
And there was an earlier point in time where there was another U-Haul, and that was the anonymous employee that tipped Coffeezilla up. He had it wrong. That was the first U-Haul. It was like,
in an era of
what?
AI, that you think they just consult with ChatGPT for their lies. Oh, it's Relic.
Relic is
What up?
joined the stream.
What up, guys? I literally just got home from work.
Welcome home.
Welcome. Relic.
What's up?
Meet BBQ. BBQ.
What's up,
Relic.
BBQ?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Doing all right? Doing all right?
Oh, we got one in, John.
Oh, okay. Let me get this real quick. And I eat pomegranate with the Canadian 10. Appreciate it. For hat sketchy reasons, would a franchise not collect their fees and make the franchisee hold on to them for some time? Both Relic and Crystal mentioned that they had to do that at one point. So that's probably something you could address real quick, Relic, and then if you want to hop on that, BBQ.
Like, so like if they don't allow us to pay back or something? What do you mean?
So it looks like they're asking us for what sketchy. I think they meant to say for what sketchy reasons would a franchise not collect their fees and make the franchisee hold on to them for some time. Both Relic and Crystal mentioned that they had to do that at one point.
Yeah.
Because remember, you were saying you didn't have to pay. Then they say.
Yeah, like
I
I
kind of
called.
stiffed you with the rent. Yeah.
Yeah. I called to be like, all right, you guys aren't letting me bring on an investor, and then I talked to their accountant. I'm like, hey, like, can I withhold some of the like a month or two franchise payments so that I could put into marketing? And they're like, yeah, that's totally fine. You could totally do that as long as you start paying at this date. And I'm like, all right, cool. But when I was looking over the franchise agreement, it states that I think if you have 3 certain violations, then they could terminate your contract, and that was one of them in my termination letter. That I like had $12,000 or so unpaid franchise fees or royalty fees. But in my mind, like, if they were already planning on taking over, like, let's say I finished out my entire lease and everything, or franchise agreement, and I couldn't sell it to somebody, and they were already planning on it, then I would guess that they would use that against you so that they can terminate your franchise agreement and then take your store. But that's just my guess. Yeah.
Okay.
BBQ.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton to add other than I know that when the Messers broke free, that was the issue, was the monthly withdrawals. So that, you know, they wanted to still have access to the Messer's bank account, and the Messer said, no, we've locked you out of the banks. We'll send you checks, and you're not to try to ACH us funds.
May I
So-
throw my mask in the ring, gentlemen?
Yes.
All right. So I think honestly, from the situation with the Messers, that's kind of why they started doing that to their franchisees. Was, you know, doing that thing where like, don't worry about the payments, we'll pay it later. You know, we'll take care of it. Actually, we didn't pay it at all. Fuck you all. So I don't know. Something about the Messers kind of led to how the way they operate now. I think, anyway, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's possible that they did it. I'm not saying that they did or didn't, but it is possible
not.
that they use that so that they can eventually terminate the franchise agreement.
This is all a conspiracy theory. You're fine.
So Rosier Investigates for the 2 says, ask Relic if he has seen the BAM map. That people really want people to see this BAM map. I'm gonna have
We need to
check it
go
out.
over that damn map.
Which BAM map?
Oh, well, you've seen one of them, so that's a good thing.
Apparently it's one that ties all the people that are involved in this whole mess. You know, I mean, by certain
Like
degrees of separation, I believe.
Okay, I thought you meant like the map of where each Bricks and Minifix is located.
Oh, no.
No, somebody I think sent me once, like tagged some Instagram account and then sent it to me, and it was like this somebody like tied in like a bunch of like thought bubbles, like this is when Josh Johnson came in. And I was listening, but other than the BAM app, I was listening to the stream on the way home. From my knowledge, Josh Johnson and Brandon Best didn't come in until after 2023 or early 2024. Because when I went and got my franchise agreement, didn't see, like, when I got into the franchise, the 5 days of training when I was at corporate, I didn't see Joshua Johnson or Brandon Best. And then when I presented my plan to Bricks and Minifigs, they told me that, like, oh, we've partnered with these guys recently, or whatever language they used, but it felt like they partnered with them recently, that they were store rescuers.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, Man Blossom 82 with the 5. Thank you very much. It says Josh truck was at the store the next morning with the bird cage collapsed. I think Josh was taking the pics while Brandon was driving to Oregon. Maybe.
Interesting. I can see it.
The other thing is, like, I keep pointing this out, like, there should be multiple camera angles, so we could see, like, if they put out the footage, we would be able to see if Brandon Best was moving the sets or taking pictures of like empty shelves instead of the proper filled up shelves, or we would be able to see. I would say if you're smart, you'd have a camera pointing at the safe, and you'd be able to see Brandon taking out sets and then leaving some sets in the safe. So that's what I think is weird, is that we haven't seen any other camera footage other than the one where Crystal is behind the register and Brandon Best is taking over the place.
Yeah, it does beg a lot of questions. That's the other thing too, because again, to a point that you had mentioned earlier, BBQ, when you were talking about how they basically exacerbated the situation. That's something that we've said here too, because I was like, because I think there probably is a little bit of blame to go around there as well with Crystal in regards to how the collection was being, inventoried and numbers and things like that. And I said, well, and I always said, like, let's just grant that, for a second, just for the sake of argument, right? Let's say Bricks and Minifigs were actually right in the situation, and for some reason, and it was all Crystal's fault. I was just like, well, they kind of made it their fault when they just kicked her out. They put the responsibility on themselves because they just kicked her out. And when you hear Kai McAllister, the ring camera footage, and Kai McAllister is telling, or Matt or Kai, whoever it is that's on the phone at that point in time, is telling Crystal, hey, look, Brandon, he's taking over the store. He's going to take on the consignment. So it's just like, to me, it's just like, all right, well, you just kind of washed your hands of you let her kind of wash her hands of the responsibility because now you're saying you're going to take it. So it's just like, so even if she was at fault, you guys kind of like are pigeonholing yourselves now to doing something here.
Yeah. So the very first video I did, which is, it's still on my channel, but the audio is really, really bad. I had huge technical issues I didn't realize. I walk through this, and the issue is twofold. It's not just what Kai McAllister said, which, by the way, he said with Brandon right there, and Brandon didn't correct Kai. That of that part of the clip, that's the most important part. Is Brandon or Kai says X, that Brandon's going to take over the consignment liability, and Brandon remains quiet. He doesn't correct it. He doesn't correct it. That's the important thing, is that he didn't dispute it.
That's what I said. Yep.
From an evidentiary perspective, though, there's another one that's actually probably even more important, which is in the letter, the termination letter. I don't know if you guys have that.
Yeah, we have crystals.
Yeah, are you able to put that on the screen?
Yeah, I can bring it up. Just give me 1 sec. I'll bring that up because I do have that. Let me go ahead and bring that up here real quick.
While we're waiting, hey, Relic, does Brandon have a tongue, or did they cut that shit off? I'm just curious because he's always quiet.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's by choice or like he just can't speak.
It's probably his relationship due to S&M and Josh Johnson.
Really? I swear, man, he's like Reek from Game of Thrones. Call me Reek. My name is Reek. And please go ahead, John.
It's worse when Josh Johnson is there in the room with him. It's like he's just bullying everybody, and Brandon is just like, nodding.
What's your name, Brandon? My name is Reek.
It's Reek.
Yeah, so here's the termination letter. You want me to scroll down here?
Let me find the right part. Maybe it's on the second page.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll scroll down a little bit here.
Yeah.
Here.
When you get a second, John, Katie Lynn's got something for you.
Yeah. I saw Katie Lynn. Thank you very much. My theory is BB borrowed JJ's truck, picked up U-Haul, visited a storage unit during the day near Canby, which was mentioned as a story repossessed store, dropped U-Haul off, and then drove red truck up.
Sheesh, yeah, maybe.
Possibly. I mean,
so if you zoom in on the second paragraph there,
this one.
Yeah, so it says no, not two. Like literally the second one on the page.
Oh, so this one, the post-termination obligations. Okay.
Yeah, so it says there that what BAM's going to do is they're taking over, they're exercising all their post-termination rights, including you see the words taking over operations.
Yeah, right.
That's the key phrase. The issue here is something called successor liability, and when a business ceases, or business operations cease, or a business gets bought, and that business has liabilities, the liabilities transfer to whoever is succeeding the business. And so BAM is claiming that, well, it's different. It's a different business, right? There was the Crystal Law business, her LLC, and then you have the Brandon and Josh LLC, and they were different. And so that's why there's no issue. Well, that's not correct, because as you're seeing right here, BAM Corporate itself is saying we are taking over operations. So there was a period of time after the takeover where BAM Corporate said we are taking over operations. They became what's called a successor to the business venture of that store. And so in so doing, there's a very strong argument that they have become they didn't just acquire the assets, they acquired the liabilities as well, which means if there was any problem, let's say hypothetically, Crystal had sold the entire set and hadn't paid Brian and owed Brian $80,000. Well, corporate now owns that liability. Corporate has to pay the $80,000 because they're a successor, because they say it right here in the document. If you go to the very last page too, there's another sentence in here too, where they say in lieu of paying the total, blah 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 blah. If you are willing to agree these terms, they say they're going to take over assume all ownership of the store, all of it, and they're going to take on all of your assets, including all your inventory and your fixtures. That's just more another statement of them saying, look, we're taking over this whole business. We are becoming the successor to your LLC in the operation of this store. And that's a huge problem for them, because that means that they took on whatever was owed to the Mansells, whether it be outstanding inventory or unpaid money or what, all of that goes and travels to corporate, and it's corporate's liability now. And they're the ones that, whatever it is, like I said, all the fault could lie in terms of bad accounting with the Gormans, but that's irrelevant from the law now, because from a legal perspective, BAM Corporate took ownership of that liability. It's now their liability. And if they have to pay out to the Mansells, and they could then go privately seek a cause of action against the Gormans if they want to, but it doesn't preclude their liability to Brian Mansell at this point.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. And it's funny because, like I said, the stuff that we had talked about, like I felt like, especially when you see the videos and all that too, and hearing all that stuff, that's what I felt too from the beginning, especially how you mentioned Brandon didn't say anything. That's something that we had talked about here too as well, was like, you see, like they're saying right in front of him and he has no objection whatsoever. He's just quiet as they say, hey, he's going to take on that consignment. He had no objection when they said that, which I thought was interesting. So to me, I mean, to me, I'm just like, that to me, even though he didn't say he agreed or anything like that, I'm like, he sure didn't say he disagreed.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's the time to say something like, what?
Yeah.
At least what?
I would think right then and there, he was like, whoa, hey, we're going to have to.
My name is Rick.
About that, because I don't know. But he said nothing. He said nothing. He just stayed quiet.
There's a universe where all of this is caused by bad accounting, bad businessmen, and no actual malice. I don't know if that's the reality, but just the way all of this happened, I could see so many different possibilities that involve bad accounting in the front end, bad business practice, a hasty takeover. Mm-hmm. Brandon doesn't even live in Oregon, so how long was he in that store for? Like the day? Because Josh was there the next day. Like all of this seems like it was hasty and rushed. And I mean, so there's so many ways this could go. Nobody's doing themselves any favors, but at the end of the day, the Mansells just need their money back or their Legos back. Exactly.
Katie Lynn again with the 5. I also believe that BB and JJ skimmed off the top by underreporting due to incentive from A for offering to buy for what they could recover.
Possibly. It's definitely a possibility. Like, what is it? I thought they took some of the, conspiracy theory, but I thought they took some of the layaways, to the other store, and that's why it wasn't like reported correctly as well.
Well, also like the store stayed open the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're gonna do an inventory count, and again, we haven't really seen Brandon's, and same situation with me. To this day, there is no inventory count from their end to show me what their count was for my store.
Right.
And so they opened the store the next day as regular operations and made sales.
Correct.
Yep.
So who's to say that they didn't sell some of those sets the next day? Who's to say that they actually did a full inventory count? Because there's no proof of their inventory count.
Right. That's true.
So Katie Lynn with another 5 says, I don't think A knew, and it was too late to fix when he found out he has to cover JJ and BB to keep them from turning on the bigger franchise turning. I'm not sure what they meant at the end there, but
I think they meant churning,
like
franchise
churning. Yeah, that I have heard. I've heard of that.
That might be what they meant.
Yeah, I think that's what they probably meant too. But yeah, it just looks so bad all around, man. It just like every day, and I think this is the quietest I think that it's been on their front, right, since the CoffeeZilla video. At least, in terms of anything public, because I don't think Eamon's done any more news station interviews either.
Well, let me ask BBQ. When there is a gag order so that the judge can hear the other side, does that gag order go to all parties? So like everybody stops talking about it until the judge can hear all sides?
It depends on the specifics of the gag order. So in criminal cases, gag orders on all sides, and specifically on all sides lawyers, is very common, because in criminal cases, you have the added issue of the defendant's Sixth Amendment rights to a fair trial. You don't really have that with as big a concern in civil. So you don't see gag orders in civil. That kind of, because back up in criminal, the reason why gag orders are more common is because you're trying to protect the jury pool from being tainted. So you want to inhibit public statements that might bias the jury pool. In civil, you don't have that big of a concern. And so the First Amendment at that point becomes much more predominant. Here, the judge issued the TRO only against the defendants. It was not something that was being applied to the plaintiffs at all. So in addition to all the other problems with the Constitution and free speech and everything, there was this inherent inequity that the plaintiffs could go out and say whatever they wanted, and they could do interviews, but the defendants could not respond.
Dang. No, yeah, shit. That's just.
Would you say, BBQ, in your opinion, so would you say like they've accomplished their goal in quieting down the whole reckless ban situation on the internet?
I think no, I don't think that's true. I mean, look, my channel is 2 weeks old. Mm-hmm. When I posted the video yesterday about Ben moving the case to federal court, I had 200,000 views on a brand new channel. So no, I think the public interest is huge. I think what they have succeeded is in delay. And I don't know if delay is their objection. Or is their objective, because he's gonna, and I think it's gonna happen next week at this point. He's gonna be able to start posting again. He's got probably a whole backlog of videos he's gonna release, and now what might have been a huge problem for them for the month of June, and then things start to quiet down as people move on, and there isn't a lot of new content, is now all of June, and then we're getting into July, so it's gonna be all of July too. They're just. I don't think it's effective for them at all from a messaging perspective.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to add, because remember, they didn't think this was going to last long. They sent an email to their franchisees saying that it's going to blow over in 2 weeks. Their goal was to make it out that Ben was just lying about everything. What is it? They try to take down his Patreon and stuff like that, and none of it worked. So none of it worked in their favor. But like, there's groups out there, like there's Facebook groups following the situation with like 11,000 people in it, I think. Like Bricks and Minifigs, we steal from old people. There's one for the AFPD. There's a lot of people. Like I think I say this, and I kind of say it as a joke, but at the same time, it's true. Reckless Ben took down a corporation and a police department. Like, it's insane. Like, in a sense, you know what I mean? Not literally, but
yeah.
So there's too many eyes on it.
Go ahead.
Let me just do these real quick. Katie Lynn with the 5. Does Denton's potentially have a conflict of interest repping JJ and BB?
Yes. Yes, I think there is. So the rule is that an attorney cannot represent two different parties unless the parties' interests are substantially aligned. I think there is a real potential issue with them representing BAM corporate and the McNeffs on one end, and Josh Johnson and Brandon Best on the other hand, because of that press release that they put out saying we've parted ways with them.
Yep.
And if you've really parted ways with them, then how are the attorneys representing all people at once? The fact could be that Josh Johnson, Brandon Best, and their business could be accused of being the ones that stole the Legos. Like we've seen in the chat tonight, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if that's the case, then yeah, it's nuts for them to not have their own lawyer, because that one lawyer can't adequately represent both sides of the bricks and minifigs half of things at that point.
We have CMAD 34 Marine. Thank you so much for the 199. Will Lego get involved for damage to their brand?
I don't think it's damaged their brand.
Yeah, I don't think it's really a damage to them. I mean, I think if for some reason it does in some way, which I don't think it will, it's not going to stop their sales. There's such a super.
If it affects the dollar amount, any big company is going to be,
if it affects their bottom line, then I could
frustrated,
see them. Yeah, I could see them getting involved then if like stocks drop or something like that, or they just there's just significant, damage to their sales, then maybe. But I don't think so. I think they're gonna play the diplomatic route, and they're just not gonna say anything for or against.
Like Lego might capitalize after they can get a feel for who's the winning side.
No, Lego. Reckless
Yeah.
Ben Lego set. So,
Well,
go ahead.
Maybe. But I wanted to ask BBQ. So if he wins his hearing on the 30th of June, and the gag order is over with, or like he actually gets it officially over with even before that, can they issue some other type of gag order that still prevents him from posting his part 3 or any other videos or talking about bricks and minifigs?
No, for a few reasons. So first off, you weren't here when we talked about this, but
Okay.
there is no more June 30th hearing. The case has been moved to federal court. So everything that
So it's
was
official now. It's not. It's
it was
okay, cool,
official.
cool.
It was official when it happened.
Okay, awesome.
So
Because
so
I
it's
heard it's like it's moving, it's in process, but it's not official yet.
no, it's
okay.
it's official. It is in the court. It hasn't been assigned a judge yet, but that's because they did this, Friday afternoon. And it usually takes a day or two for a case to get a judge assignment in federal court. So, what is likely to happen is, and I actually just put a video out tonight about this. I think the TRO is basically dead, because the Supreme Court has said that you can't extend when you have this case where it goes up to federal court, you can't extend the TRO longer than statute lets you. Statute only let them do 14 days. It's been like 3 or 4 weeks now. So I think technically it's dead. But what's likely to happen is early next week, we're going to see some kind of filing. It's either going to be a filing from Reckless Ben's side saying there was a TRO in the old case and that TRO is expired under the statute. And so we just need clarification that the TRO is in fact expired. Or it's going to be a joint filing from all parties that looks like the thing that they filed on Wednesday, where it was like this, here's the ground rules, here's what everyone can and can't do, and we're taking out all the free speech restrictions. Either way, I expect that Ben will probably, and again, there seems to be an unending series of road bumps in this case. So please, nobody hold me to this prediction if like another random thing happens. But my guess is that by mid to late next week, he'll be able to post again. There isn't likely to be any kind of follow-up gag order or limitation on speech at that point, because defamation claims, the way you resolve a defamation claim is you don't block the speech up front and then settle the lawsuit afterwards. That is what the First Amendment is there. You have the right to speak. That's your First Amendment right. If what you say is defamatory, the correction to that is you have to pay monetary damages. You go through a jury trial. The jury decides that what you said is false, and then you pay damages. Or at that point, if it's been decided by a jury, at that point, maybe, the speech does come down. But what you don't do, because of the First Amendment, is you don't restrain the speech in the first instance before a jury is decided. These are all jury issues. And this is why we have a jury system. Unlike, for example, if anyone remembers the Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff from a few years ago.
Yep.
Johnny Depp was found to have committed defamation in the UK by a judge, not by a jury, because they didn't try that case over there in front of a jury. But then the case came here There was a parallel case here on the East Coast in front of a jury, and the jury came to a completely different determination.
Yeah.
But between the two, I know people have issues with our justice system. I will always put my faith in a jury system over a judge system every day of the week.
So, I, in my opinion, think it would be stupid for Bricks and Minifigs to take it to trial. But do you think that Bricks and Minifigs has any benefit of taking it to trial?
No. No. And here's why. Because trial in this instance means probably 2 years of litigation, 2 years of, the scrutiny might not be as bad as it is today, but every time something big happens in the case, it'll pop back up. So they're going to have 2 years of a PR problem. And at the end of that 2 years, let's say they do get all of their claims survived, they don't get dismissed or knocked out on various off ramps. Then they've got to go to trial where they've got a CEO who's contradicted himself 5 times. You've got Matt McNeff, who is positive there weren't any sets when in fact he hadn't seen half the photos. You've got a magic U-Haul. You've got you got Brandon Best with his like kind of creepy eyes, like when you saw that in the video, and like, he was just like staring reckless Ben down.
Yeah.
And you've got Josh Johnson who himself has sometimes a tenuous relationship with the truth.
Yeah.
None of the people, and I'm not saying that there might not also be issues on the defense side. Don't take me wrong, but if we're talking about whether Bricks and Minifigs wants to take this to trial, no, because how do you try this case with all of your main witnesses so compromised on credibility? They will get savaged by a jury. There's no chance they win here. It's like where's the old man's Legos? Like where's the Legos? Where's his money? This is an old man who, as I hear, is not well, and he just wanted to be able to make this a parting gift for his grandchildren. It's like, you can't pony up the 80,000 or whatever it is. No, they do not want this to go to trial.
And
I agree.
Follow-up question to that. So after Reckless Ben wins or settles, is there any possibility, or would it be intelligent for Bricks and Minifigs to go after Brandon Best and Josh Johnson? If they prove that he's
I mean,
that
they can, but again, the problem is they've planted a flag.
Yeah.
They've told everyone in the world that it wasn't Josh and Brandon, that it was the Gormans.
Yeah.
They put out press releases. They put that in their lawsuit, and that's equally problematic for them. If let's say hypothetically they sued Josh Johnson, exhibit number 1 of Josh Johnson's defense is going to be all the statements from Bricks and Minifigs saying that it was the Gormans.
So they already lost in a way. Yeah. Sheesh.
I mean, they've planted their flag, right? They've decided what theory they're going with. They've circled the wagons around Josh and Brandon. They're blaming the Gormans. They're blaming Reckless Ben. They're blaming the Mansells, and that's how they decided to proceed. It's they're in some ways they're too far down the road to change.
Yeah.
Like they're in too deep, basically, at this point.
And the reason I asked that is because a lot of people theorize, and I somewhat would believe in this theory, just given my experience with these people. Like Brandon and Josh are like full-blown liars, 100%. So, and then liars lie to other liars and the people they're closest to the most. And so, like, it seems that Ammon blindly trusts these guys in a way, because every time they talk, everybody's contradicting one another. So there's obviously miscommunication within their own company. But if it was discovered that Brandon Best lied to Bricks and Minifigs and they backed him up, same with Josh Johnson, and then they discover later on that they created a bunch of lies to Bricks and Minifigs, would that still be a problem with them planting their flag?
As a matter of law, Could they pursue a claim? Yes, depending on how
Yeah.
long it takes them to come to the realization and whether there's like a statute of limitations. They would have to deal with this with what they've already said. This is why you don't let your clients make a bunch of public statements about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a problem for them no matter what. And will that stop them? Let's say they get rock solid evidence. And they're like, it's 100% now it's that. They could go for it. That they'll have to explain it to a jury. And they'll have to go. They'll have to mea culpa, jury. We said those things, but we were wrong. It might work with a jury, but you've got to convince them. It's just one thing that nobody wants to have to start a lawsuit behind, and they'd be starting behind.
Wow. All right. Katie Lynn with the 2 BBQ. That is 1,000% not fake JJ's photo.
I'm not even sure how to read that.
I think that Katie Lynn's convinced otherwise. So Rick
P.
5. Thank you so much for the 5. Appreciate the support, man. LMC Lego stock is holding at 9.92 share, not up or down. Then we have Katie Lynn again with the 2. Thank you so much. Where is the bird, Bam? So they're talking about the bird that was in the cage, Crystal Gorman's bird, which nobody knows what happened to the bird, apparently.
Oh my God, they released it. They released that thing.
I don't know what happened to the bird either, so I can't say either way. Rose investigates with the 5. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. There's a colorable criminal RICO claim against BAM and the legally mined asset protection machine detailed on the BAM map. Prima facie notarial fraud. Do you know anything about that?
I think it's a part of the BAM map that they're talking about, that it's in there. Okay. If I'm not mistaken.
Rose investigates with 2. Thank you very much. RICO charge is projection, everything a confession. Then we have Man Blossom 82 with the 2. Thank you so much. Thursday Tum has a great question. Let's see. Who's Thursday Tum?
Right there, the request for federal trial hasn't been signed. If BAM lists Tyler, Heroin Kid, and the processor lady, they both live in Utah, can the federal judge decide to deny the move to federal courts? That's a question for you, BBQ. That's not for me.
Yeah.
I can't answer that.
So I think what
okay. Yeah, I understand the question. So the issue is this. So you don't have to the movement removal to federal court does not require approval by a judge. It's an act that has happened. So it's a discrete point. They filed the papers. It's done. There can be a situation where the case being in federal court could be what's called remanded back to state court. One of those is, I'd mentioned at the beginning of the stream, you need to have complete diversity. You line up all the plaintiffs on one side, you line up all the defendants on the other side, you make sure nobody on the left side is in the same state as anyone on the right side. If they add a new defendant that is from, for example, Utah, then you don't have that scenario anymore. And so that's a scenario where things might go back to state court. The problem with that is the federal judge doesn't have to allow that. The federal judge can say, I'm not going to allow you to add this party in order to defeat my jurisdiction over this case. It's particularly problematic if it can be shown that the plaintiffs know who this person is. So the whole world seems to know that there's a kid named Tyler who is from American Fork, who's part of this. The issue would be, why couldn't the plaintiffs have named that person earlier on?
Yeah.
And are the plaintiffs doing this purely to get back to state court? There would be a whole bunch of motion practice involved in that. So is it as a technical legal matter possible? Yes. Is it likely? I don't think it's very likely. I think it's going to be very hard arguments for the plaintiffs to make if they did that, because it'd be so transparent what they were doing. Federal courts don't like does, and they don't give any credit to when you remove a case up to federal court. If there's a bunch of does on there, the federal courts aren't really going to give that much credit.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was gonna ask about that, but you just answered the question. I was gonna ask in regards to the does. So
Yeah, and a lot of people have been asking me that, and so I did a little bit of research today, and it's an uphill fight for the plaintiffs if they try to do that.
There they go. Yeah, I don't think, like I said, I don't think they have. I think any chance that they had, or the better chances that they had are definitely gone now too. But again, I always say, because I've seen also weird things happen in court cases as well. So you can never say with 100% certainty, because you never know how things are going to play out.
Well, John,
with any
to
type
what-
of certainty, but
Yeah.
Go
To what you're
ahead.
saying too, John, like this is moving very quick. We
Yeah.
thought this was going to be a longer time, like this is going very fast.
Yeah, the amount of updates that there's been in regards to filings and things like that, and different legal documentation coming out, I think has been pretty fast. Faster than I've seen it. I mean, I've seen other cases where it's been close to the same, I guess, to the same speed, but not like this. I think it seems like almost every day there's something new being added, or at least every week.
Yeah, on this
litigation
scale.
goes in spurts, though. So litigation, we're kind of on the outside looking in, but having been on the inside of many cases, the beginning of a case, there's like a lot of stuff, and then there'll be a lengthy, slow period where things might be happening in the case, but it's not publicly visible.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a bunch of filings again. It's very cyclical.
Right.
We're in a peak cycle right now for this case.
Yeah. So we're at that point in time. I think we're about at wrap up time. So I guess if anybody got any last minute questions here, now's the time to ask, because we're going to be closing out the stream here very shortly. But I wanted to go ahead and post BBQ Counselor's channel right here in the chat. For those of you, if you're not subscribed to him, highly recommend sub to his channel, watch his content, really good stuff.
Follow him on X.
Always breaking news. Follow him on X as well. Same, it's the same. It's at BBQ_Counselor on X. He's always breaking news on there as well. And I also wanted to post Relic's channel here.
You all got to catch his streams from yesterday. He was going over his franchise agreement. So if you haven't seen it,
I still have so much to go over. I don't know if BBQ, if you watched it, but I do not envy lawyers, because I hate my life just reading my own franchise agreement. I can't imagine reading somebody else's agreements that I don't give a damn about. I'm just kidding.
I get it.
I mean, this is what we do. We read a lot. I used to read a lot for pleasure, and I haven't since I became a lawyer nearly as much, because I'm reading
pleasure,
all
you
day.
psychopath.
Well, look, I mean, I've got my limited edition Lord of the Rings and stuff.
Hell
like that.
yeah,
that's what's up.
All right. No. Okay, that's
we take
valid.
it back.
I thought you were reading for pleasure, like documents.
No.
Ooh, let me
No.
let me read my freaking dictionary this month. It's
time to hit the thesaurus this week.
Lord of the Rings. That's valid.
Yeah.
That's different. That's
it's
not reading. That's
it's a
enlightenment.
lot harder to read.
Actual literature.
Yeah, that's enlightenment. It's not reading.
It's
Okay, so
That's a good
so
way
we
of
got
putting it.
we got a few questions here. So, question for BBQ: what is the inspiration for your channel name? It's funny because we talked about this before we went live. But I'll let you go ahead.
Well, the history is that I've had, I've been on YouTube as a consumer and on Discord and stuff for many years. I'm connected with some folks that have barbecue themed channels, and I'm on barbecue Discords, and I like to barbecue myself. And so at some point I just started calling myself BBQ Counselor, because I'm a lawyer and people knew me as the guy on the barbecue channels that's the lawyer. So when I decided to start making videos, I just kept the name.
Great name. So, question: do hobbits have specific theft obligations under the U.S. Constitution?
I think so. I think hobbits are probably covered by the Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment.
We should just ask Josh. He's like 3 hobbits in one suit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. The image of him on the steps with his bare feet did remind me of someone who might be in Hobbiton. Doing that.
Or maybe somebody who left
Club
Hobbiton hundreds of years, prior to that, that loved his precious ring.
Yeah. He's our favorite Gollum.
Yep. Have you, have you seen? Okay, Rose investigates with the two asks. Have you seen Dan McNeff's asset protection video?
What were you about to say, John? Gross. Hashtag gross. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, what's up, Pumpkin?
Oh shit, Pumpkin's in chat.
When this is all over, where are you going to barbecue to celebrate?
Probably dino ribs.
Oh man.
Oh,
If you know what dino
Right.
ribs are, then you know. Then hopefully I gained a little bit of barbecue cred.
Good shit. All right. That's a good answer.
Yeah. Now I haven't seen Dan McNeff's video. Have any of you?
yeah.
I
I've
have
seen
seen
it.
it.
Yeah. I didn't see his video, but we were going over his lawsuit with his sons.
Yeah, that's something that we got to finish up. Is going over that stuff as well too on a future stream. But yeah, we'll go ahead and start wrapping it up here because it's already we're at our time here. But I want to say very special thanks to BBQ. Thank you for joining us, man. It's been,
Yeah, no, this has
awesome,
been great.
very educational. For
Really
sure.
appreciate
Definitely
your
want to have you
time.
back on if you're down to come back on
Yeah, sure.
on a future stream. It doesn't always have to be the legal stuff, man. Maybe we could just shoot the shit on the next stream. Maybe get into some geek stuff. But
Well,
But nah, man.
I don't know. Let's see if I can show it. So, if you can see my enterprises.
Ooh,
Oh!
I saw the posters. I'm like, he's a Star Trek
Oh,
fan. And look at that
nice.
big old ring right there.
Look.
Oh,
Yeah.
very
Ah.
nice.
I've got the
Very
Legos.
Slave
Who's got the
one.
Legos? I got the
Slave
Legos.
one.
What's up?
And then my wife got me the Lord. My Lord
Yeah.
of the Rings lamp.
John, do you want to know something interesting? I don't know if you would all agree with this, but I feel like collectors specifically have really jumped in on this situation. Like I haven't seen
Yeah.
that before.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, because it's I think it's affected the collector community. That everybody's gonna be way more skeptical in selling their any of their items to somebody else.
Secondhand. Yeah,
Yeah,
the secondhand stores.
Yeah, or even at conventions.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
You know,
it's
because
just kind of cool.
we've already seen videos of people putting fake Pokemon cards or
Yep.
stealing at a convention, stuff like that. So people are gonna be, I think it's gonna affect that kind of community. Conventions, probably less
Oh, for
people
sure.
are gonna go there, or people are gonna buy or sell less at conventions.
It's
Right.
it's definitely gonna
Yeah.
stuff like this
People
definitely causes
are gonna be
apprehension with people.
skeptical. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it causes apprehension for sure in the collector market. So I'm just gonna leave off with one last question to BBQ before we
Sure.
go ahead and sign off for the day. Who's your favorite captain in Star Trek?
Kirk.
Yes.
Yeah,
This-
that's the right
yes,
answer. That's
one
the
of
right
us.
answer.
One of us. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap up the stream here. But again, like I said, yeah, be sure to check out BBQ on his channel. Be sure to subscribe to him. Check out his videos.
I don't know if you guys can tell. So that's Shatner.
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
a signed Shatner. That's a picture of me with Nichelle Nichols.
Oh, nice.
That's a picture of me with William Shatner.
jeez.
This is a design patent for a Enterprise toy, and then off camera, I've got my design patent for TIE Fighter toys.
That's what's up.
Sick.
Nice.
That is what's up.
Awesome.
So after we go off the air, stick around for a moment if
All
you
right.
can. Barbecue.
Sure.
But we'll go ahead and wrap it here. Also, be sure to check out Relic's channel. Like I said, link put in the chat there. Oh, and one last thing here, also because I always make it a point to share this as well. For those of you, if you haven't already, this is Reckless Ben's Give, Send, Go. Be sure to help them out if you can. If not, share it. I think that's just as good. If you can't, if you don't have the means to donate, that's fine. Maybe share it. Maybe somebody can, and let's help this guy. Win his court cases. Help him have a good war chest so he can win his court cases. So we'll go ahead and wrap it there. But appreciate you guys joining us tonight, and we'll catch you guys on the next stream. We'll be off tomorrow. No stream tomorrow, but we'll be back Monday.
Yep.
So,
Thanks for having me on,
Just being
guys.
there.
Sorry I was late.
No, you're
good, man. But
Thanks for stopping by.
yep,
Thank you
as
all for
always.
hanging out.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so much, and thank you
great.
for the questions. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Good night.